everyone. Welcome to Real Life. I'm Rose Martin here with our very favorite life coach, Susan Harf. You know, Susan has tips and strategies for how to help us navigate those tricky parts of our life to live our very best life happily. And like you, I cannot wait to hear what's on her mind today. Hey, Susan.
Hi, Rose. I'm very happy to see you, and I'm so glad that you joined us as well. So today we are talking about narcissists, and specifically narcissistic personality disorder. And I guess I want to start by making the point that it is a personality disorder. There are about probably around 18 million people in this country who have narcissistic personality disorder, because it's around, they say it's around 5% of the population. So there's a chance that most of you know somebody who has narcissistic tendencies.
Well, and I'm interested to know exactly what those tendencies are, because I think sometimes we throw that word around a lot. Oh, they're a narcissist, or you're being a narcissist. So I'm anxious to know what it really, really means, to see if I'm mislabeling a few people or criticizing where I shouldn't be.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because the truth is that I find in everyday conversation, people tend to use words like, you're a narcissist, or I hear people say, oh, I'm like schizophrenic today. No, you're not. You know, so it's true that, you know, people do use these terms sort of in a flip way. But the thing with narcissism that makes it easier to spot is that it's fairly consistent behavior. So people who are narcissistic, their primary concern, and mainly their only concern, is themselves. And the way they show that concern for themselves is a disregard for others. They lack empathy. They tend not to be empathic when you tell them a story about yourself. They really don't care how you feel about anything, let alone, and especially, how the narcissist impacts them.
Do you think there's degrees of narcissism, though? So someone could be maybe appearing not to really care about what you're saying, and then they're like maybe too concerned with themselves or what they want to say next. And then there are other people, like from the time they're children, they as a true disorder, really don't even have that gene of empathy and caring about other people.
That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I think that everyone can at certain times have a tendency to focus on themselves, care about their feelings more than somebody else, be worried about something in their life and having someone else tell them a story and not really being all that concerned about what the other person is saying. Those tendencies do not necessarily mean that somebody is a narcissist. And it's funny, because one of the things I tell people when they say, I wonder if I am one. I've had clients say that to me, I'm worried that I'm a narcissist. And I say back to them, you're probably not, because a narcissist is exactly the person who is not going to worry about whether or not they are. So in fact, we all have tendencies which could, at some times in our lives, lead us to be really just thinking about and focusing on ourselves, especially if we're going through a hard time or some kind of problem that we're facing.
You know, I'm thinking, though, do narcissists manipulate people in their world to get what they want? Is that part of what's happening there also?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Once again, Rose, you're a very good life strategist. Yes, narcissists do manipulate other people, because narcissists believe that people are a means to an end. And so because they believe that, oftentimes they dehumanize people. And the way that they do that is by interchanging. In their mind, people are interchangeable. So they might refer to somebody as, well, that one there, and then this one here. In other words, like we're all part of a category called the other human beings. And so the narcissist thinks to themselves, what can this person do for me? Can this person help me get a job? Can this person help me in my career? Should they work for me? I've had narcissists say to me, I met my wife and she was whatever profession she was, but I decided that she had to work for my business because that would help me better. So all of a sudden, this person has changed this other woman's career, his wife's career.
Wow.
And And not only in terms of like, I'd like, not like I'd like you to come work for me. It's you need to do this to help me.
Yeah, not like let's grow our business together and our
yeah,
family.
totally
and
not
all of
that.
So I've got a couple of questions. I'm thinking, how do we recognize if it's true narcissism? And then how do we react? How do we deal with it?
The way we react is by knowing some of these characters, excuse me, the way we identify is by knowing some of these characteristics that the narcissist has. In addition to a lack of empathy, the narcissist can talk in grandiose ways relative to their own accomplishments, relative to what they've done, relative to other people in regard to them. So a narcissist can say, I had the most fill in the blank. I had the best fill in the blank. I am the most beautiful. I am the most intelligent.
So everything is extreme and exaggerated.
Everything is extreme. I'm in the Mensa Society. They also tell lies. They say whatever they need to say to get their needs met, and they absolutely abhor the person who is busy getting their needs met. So in other words, when the narcissist asks you to do something for them, they want it now. They want you to do it now. And they do not want you to wait to help them in order to do something for yourself or get your own needs met. Your needs are unimportant in the mind of the narcissist.
So does it seem like when they're wanting their needs met and lying, that then somehow they turn it on you to be, that wasn't the way it happened. You're either just thinking that up on your own or you must be crazy because that's not what was intended. And you just remember, you don't remember that the correct way to where you're sometimes shaking your head thinking, did I get that all mixed up? I mean, I don't know.
And what you're talking about now, Rose, is has a name. It's called gaslighting. And gaslighting happens, it occurs, when the narcissist says exactly that, what you just said, lets you believe that you're crazy, that there's something wrong with you. So you say so if you confront the narcissist, which I don't advocate, if you confront the person and you say, you're only thinking about yourself right now, and the narcissist may say back to you, well, I can't believe that you're saying that to me because you're saying that what I should do is drop my life and only wait on you. All you want me to do is cater to you. What's wrong with you? And that person leaves the conversation thinking, well, gee, maybe I asked too much of him or her.
So I was going to ask you why we don't do that, but you just answered my question, why we don't confront them, because it can blow up in that way.
Confronting the narcissist does not lead to change. In fact, oftentimes it only makes it worse because it can lead to belittling behavior, abusive behavior, name calling. If you confront the narcissist, even with an I statement, which you've heard me advocate, right, and say, I feel unhappy when you do that behavior, or I feel left out when you talk to me that way, or I feel like I'm being abused by you when you treat me in that manner. All of those things with the narcissist could lead to, well, guess what? This is what you are. And all of a sudden turn it into an insult. And oftentimes these things happen in public. So what people do too often is they placate and enable the narcissist because they just say to themselves, oh, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to have to deal with another blow up. I don't want to have to be worried about what they're going to say to me in public. So I just go along with whatever she or he wants, and that's easier for me. And what people will describe to me when they're talking about being in a relationship with a narcissist is just that. It's placating, enabling behavior, which of course I don't advocate.
And I'm thinking, if we don't confront, right, or bring that, so then are you just walking away and saying, oh, whatever, even though if I know there's a lie, even if I know that, you know, they should be more responsive to my needs or the children's needs or someone else, and then what's the line there in walking away and confronting because of truth and integrity and all of those things that are so important to your value system?
Well, there are a number of things that we can do, and I want to get to that, but I want to back up a little, and I want to start off by saying, how do you not get into a relationship with a narcissist? So sometimes we have relationships that we can control, and when you are dating someone, or let's say you are interviewing for a job with someone that you're going to be reporting to, a close relationship where you're going to have to navigate this relationship on a day-to-day basis. Some of the things we've talked about, the kinds of behavior that the narcissist is exhibiting, are the things we need to look for so that we don't get into a relationship with this person.
So would you know that? Would you be able to see that? Because I thought maybe the narcissist would try to, smooth talk all the people around thinking they're great and they're wonderful. And then when it got down to it, behind closed doors, or when things got a little bit more tense or anxiety filled, that's when the tendencies came out. But that's not necessarily true.
I think it gets exacerbated in that way. But for instance, sometimes I've had clients say to me, I'm dating a new man. He is wonderful. He is just really bringing on the charm. The first date, he showed up with flowers and he had reservations in an expensive restaurant. And we got to the restaurant and he ordered for me because it was obvious he goes there often. And he's really handsome and he spends a lot of time on himself, but I really, I'm attracted to that. I like the fact that he's a man who takes care of himself and he goes to the gym every day, and I notice his shoes are always shined and he's got great nails and teeth. And
you're going ding, 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 ding.
I'm going ding, ding, ding because
Right.
I'm thinking, this is somebody, she's dating somebody who thrives on this kind of reaction. And when anybody is overboard too soon, too early, I say, hold your horses. There is something not right here. Because oftentimes, the narcissist, even though they appear to be so self-assured and they know what they want and they know how to get it, these are people who are vastly, vastly lacking in self-esteem. They have low self-esteem, and they are looking to the outside world, and namely you, their primary person in a relationship with. They're looking to you to feed that self-esteem, and the way you feed it to the narcissist is never enough, because they have this hole that they can't fill and that they wouldn't even think of trying to fill themselves. So they don't look inward. They don't say, what's lacking with me? What do I need to do to make myself feel better? So instead, you are always being called upon to feed that ego. And sometimes people mistake that for self-assurance. It's not self-assurance. In a boss, if you're interviewing with somebody who might be narcissistic and appears to be very self-assured, and some people, I've had people say to me, I went to work for this person because it was clear that they had boundaries, they knew what they wanted, they were going to tell me what they wanted. If I didn't do it right, they would give me the answer, they would tell me in advance, this is the way I want to do it, and don't do it this way. Sometimes what you need to do is read between the lines when someone's speaking with you. And if you are in any way concerned, and this is where you pick up on the sense that is not labeled, but it's something intuitive in you that says, wait a minute, I need to put the brakes on. Those are the kind of feelings that people have when they're with a narcissist. So, for instance, the person you're interviewing with who could someday be your boss, if this person seems overbearing, domineering, very, very concerned about perfection, and not only in themselves, but what they're demanding of you, that is not someone who's going to help you grow. Because sometimes, people will say to me, well, I thought I liked the idea that he was a perfectionist because I thought he was going to bring me to the next level in my own sense of self and ability to do the job and maybe move up. No. If someone says to you, I am a perfectionist, this is what I need, know it right off the bat, that's to the exclusion of what you need or know.
And I'm thinking, does that same behavior and that same language convey to all the relationships, or are narcissists selective, like the spouse, the main people in the family? Can they turn and change those behaviors with different sets of people?
Such a good question. Narcissists are manipulative. And so, yes, they are capable of coming on in a different way than they really are and sound nicer than they are and more concerned about you than they really are. But that is why I say to people, when you are dating someone, you need to experience them in all 4 seasons. Don't ever be in a rush. And usually it's the narcissist who is in a rush because they know who they are.
Yeah.
They want to reel you in now. And so it's very important to not succumb to that. There's no reason that anybody has given me yet in 30, however many years I've been doing this. in all these decades, no one's given me a reason why they had to get married in 1 second, you know, in 1 week, in 1 month. No, that's not what I advocate. Okay, so getting back to, these are some of the, let's talk about some of the ways, clarify some of the ways that you know people, some of the behaviors that narcissists do and that you know that they're a narcissist. So we talked about a lack of empathy. We talked about this is someone who is only thinking of themselves and what you can do to move them forward in their life, in their career, in every and any way possible. This is also somebody who speaks in a grandiose way, lies, does not tell the truth. They will do anything to get attention, and including they will do anything to make the rules bend for them. They don't need to respond to the rules of the day. They don't need to go according to the rules. They will try in most situations to change the rules for them. So if the restaurant has a rule, you know, various things that they expect, well, they don't have to wear the jacket if the restaurant says you have to wear a jacket. No, there's a reason why they don't.
They don't choose off the menu.
They don't choose off the menu. Good point. They want them to make something special for them. If the restaurant opens at 12, they want to go at 11. In other words, they always have their own way. That's not to say that, now, I don't want anybody out there to be saying, well, I like it, you know, when I'm in a restaurant and I don't want the chicken, I want shrimp. Can I ask for shrimp? Does that mean I'm a narcissist? No. This is someone who's consistently having that pattern of behavior, making the rules exclusively for them.
And to fit their lifestyle. So,
Exactly.
all right, so I kind of can identify
Yeah.
those behaviors, but let's say I didn't identify those early enough to know that I'm in the presence of a narcissist, I'm working for a narcissist, or I'm in a relationship with a narcissist.
So
guide us through.
Yeah, so what do we do? So there are very few times I'm ever going to say to you, this can't be changed. I am always full of, this can change, you can change this, you can do something different, you can do something to make it better. That is my natural course of response.
And I'm used to hearing that, Susan.
Well, you're going to hear something different from me now. The narcissist is not going to change. And I do believe that the very best course of action is to get out. I honestly do. That is the thing that is when I look at all of the myriad of things that you can do, if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, if at all possible, get out of it, because that person is going to chip away at you time after time, year after year.
And that's such an important message, and it's hard to hear because our natural instinct is to be like, well, maybe it was me, maybe I did contribute to it, maybe I can make it better if I'm just a little kinder or a little nicer, or I'm not combative, that maybe I'm, because that manipulation is playing with my head too, right? It's going to be, oh, maybe I have some part of this. So I think your message is really, really important to realize it's not you.
No, and I'm so glad you said that, because that is exactly what people do. People turn to themselves and they say, what can I do to change to make it better for us? Obviously, I'm being too demanding. I'm catching him at the wrong time. I'm asking her things that she doesn't know about and that upsets her. All of these things revolve around the normal person who is not a narcissist saying to themselves, I need to change. What can I do to make this better? And so then that leads to enabling behavior at the very least, and at the very worst, questioning behavior about, am I crazy? Am I wrong? I'm bad. I'm not good. I'm not a good partner. I'm a terrible wife. All of these things I have heard from clients many times when they're dealing with a narcissist.
And I'm thinking those grandiose gestures, you think back to say, well, gosh, they did do this, or this did happen. And then they bring that up to say, well, what about, taking you to that concert that you always wanted? Or what about doing this for your whole family? And then you're thinking, oh, well, maybe.
Or the insults, saying to yourself, well, he's just trying to make me look better, or he did insult me in front of my friends or my colleagues or the world, whatever, but he just wants, the best for me. And oftentimes the narcissist will say to you, no one's going to treat you as well as I do. Look at what I bought for you. Look at what I did for you. Look at where I brought you. No one is going to treat you that way, and I'm the one that you need to be beholden to. And these things terrorize people.
Yeah. Is it more predominant for men or women for narcissistic disorder, behavior
You
disorder?
know, I don't know that. I'm not sure about that. I can tell you that that I've had clients who have spoken to me about their narcissistic spouses equally, both men and women. But I don't really know that. It's a very good question. So I guess the thing now that we come to is, okay, so you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you can't get out of it because the narcissist is your brother or your sister, or the narcissist is your parent, or you've made the decision to stay in the marriage. You've been married for, you know, whatever, 30 years, 40 years, and you're not going to leave now. All of those things sort of lead us down the road of, okay, what is it that you can do? I've already said you're not going to change the person, and I've already said the person may try and make you feel terribly because they're very good at manipulation and they're very good at turning the tables and pointing the finger at you. So then what we come to is, are the things that we can do to keep our sanity in the situation. One of those things is to set boundaries with the person. And I should take a step back here. The very first thing you do is you don't confront them. Don't confront the narcissist. It's not going to help you. It's not going to change them. Because that's why we do confront people. We confront someone and say, hey, I want to talk to you about what happened last night. And because you're thinking to yourself, once they know how I feel,
it's going to be resolved.
It's going to be resolved because they don't know I feel very badly about this. Okay. So number one, you don't do that with the narcissist. It will only come back to bite you. Number two, you need to set boundaries. So you need to say, if you belittle me, I am going to walk out of the room. Oh, really? You're going to leave the dinner party? Yes, I am. Sometimes people say to me, "I'm too embarrassed," and you absolutely have to follow. You have to follow through. Sometimes people say to me, "I'd be embarrassed. I can't do that in front of my friends." Well, is that more embarrassing, or is it more embarrassing to sit there and listen to you be belittled? So, number one, you set boundaries. And number two, you tell the narcissist what you're going to do. If you do this again, this is what I am going to do, and then you absolutely need to follow what boundary you have set. In addition to setting boundaries, you can set boundaries for yourself about this is what I'm going to tolerate. I will never be in the room alone with this person. That's a very good boundary for you to set for yourself. Another thing that I want you to do is think about choices rather than changing their behavior. So you can say to the narcissist, if you don't like the way I dressed, then you don't have to go with me. I'm very comfortable with how I dressed. If you don't like what I say, you don't need to listen to what I say. At the same time, you have choices for yourself. You can say to yourself, if the narcissistic person is your parent, I'm going to go visit my parent and I'm going to stay a half hour and then I'm going to get up and leave. Even if nothing bad happens while you're there, that doesn't mean it can't happen the next minute. So you can say to yourself, if you're concerned about that or you're afraid of that, I'm going to stay a half hour. No matter what happens, I will be there a half hour. Then I'm going to get up and leave. So the choice is not just the choice you point out to the narcissist, but you have choices as well inside of the relationship. And identify them for the narcissist. Now, if you choose to, you don't need to say to the narcissist parent, hi, I'm only going to be here for a half hour because you're a narcissist. No. You can make that choice yourself and do it.
Right.
So don't ever feel like you're only trapped. You're not. You can set boundaries, you can set limits. The main thing is you got to follow through with them. You cannot say, don't say, if you do that one more time, I'm out of here. Don't make it that blatant, and don't make it that large of a statement. If you belittle me, or if you say something like that to me again, I'm going to leave the room. That's a much more quantitative, qualitative, and and specific thing.
And I would add a question because so many times people would make themselves feel bad. How did I choose a narcissist? How did I get myself in this place? Well, because of the manipulation, because of the lies, give yourself a break. You're there now. Now you recognize it. Now there's some strategies in order to fix it, right?
Absolutely, yes. And also, people become more of who they are over time. And unfortunately, in the case of the narcissist, I have found that to be true. So it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, so I think what we want to share with people in a closing is that, if they're in a narcissistic relationship, that, there is a way out.
Yes.
And if they're in a narcissistic relationship, it's important that they set boundaries for the behavior and for themselves.
Exactly. If it's your sister, you don't need to go on a 10-day cruise with her. All you need to do is maintain some relationship. Maybe it's over the phone. And again, don't put yourself in the room with the narcissist alone. That's when the gaslighting occurs. That's when they say things that make you turn around and say to yourself, maybe it's me, maybe I'm crazy.
Right. So, Susan, this has been great. Again, learning about narcissism and learning about the, behaviors and strategies that we can use. Another great show, Susan. Thank you. Special thanks to Susan, our favorite life coach. And if you find yourself with a narcissist, Susan's given some great examples about not confronting, about setting boundaries, about making choices for you, and not blaming yourself. I'm Rose Martin, and for Susan Harf and for Real Life, we hope you're going to join us next time. Thanks, everybody.